We did a pretty major update, update 1. So it actually has more features and functionality than the 22 release did. So we worked really, really hard on this one. We have one more big update for next year that we'll be working on, and a few more refreshes like we talked about. Refreshes are where we add minor functionality, although sometimes it's not that minor. Like, for example, I'll just give you guys a little hint. We'll be adding some, like in search now, when you type in a word and we use OCR, and if that text appeared in the photo, you can find it. Well, we're going to be adding some basic object recognition in and scene detection in. So like if you typed in cat and there was a cat in the photo, even if you hadn't yet tagged it, it'll be able to find it. So we're going to be putting our first version of some of that AI detection in pretty soon, hopefully January, February timeframe. And then, we have way more stuff coming with a whole overhaul to search and some other cool things that are slated for the springtime. But we're going to sneak peek that here this winter and get out an early version because it's actually ahead of schedule, and we're going to let you guys see that and give some feedback. But don't worry, those sort of AI search doesn't actually modify your keywords. It's just for within Mylio. So it's not going to modify any tags or keywords that you put in, and you can still search by tags or keywords or things like that. So, all right. So update 1. So what can you expect? So these are a highlight of all the new things that were added. So declutter and quick review mode are a lot of fun. Touch-based ratings and gestures. We will be adding in, with the refresh coming out in a couple of weeks, a setting if you want to turn that off. I found in our own testing, like I could swipe 1,000 times, just keep swipe, and never accidentally flag. But some people apparently like to sort of just diagonally drag with their finger, and they were accidentally rating pictures. So we've put a setting in that'll be coming out soon. So if you hate it, you can turn that feature off. We have added the ability to hide rejected photos, and also a much better move to folder tool, and cleanup rejects. So why don't we start there? We just finished a whole section on editing, if those of you joined us for that webinar. Otherwise, we'll do a couple of highlights on that at the end. And then we made it easier to import and export and things like that. So pretty cool stuff. So let's jump here, and we can talk about, where'd we go? Oh, there it is.
You want to talk about
you
declutter?
wanted to do declutter here. Yeah. So
yeah, let's do that.
We'll do declutter first. Okay. Right. So we've added a reject flag. So reject flags are meant to say, I don't want this picture. So if you reject a photo, you're clearing out its stars and making it a -1 star. Now, some of you are going to say, but I've used other programs, mainly Lightroom, that lets you reject a 5-star photo. That goes against IPTC standards, and even Photoshop and Bridge from Adobe don't do that. A reject by the governing body that runs metadata that Mylio belongs to and follows is supposed to be a -1 star. It means that you do not want a picture. So when you reject a photo, it will hide it, or it can dim it out, either way. So depending upon what you do, when you reject, it can gray the pictures out, or it can clean them out and actually totally get rid of them. So normally you can go under the organize menu, and when you're done, you can tell it to delete rejected photos. So Angela, how's this work?
Well, it depends on what view you're in. So if you're in all photos and you select delete rejected photos, it's going to delete all of your rejected photos from your entire library. If you'd prefer to do it in smaller chunks and have a chance to review them, you can go by album, you can go by folder. So whatever view you're in, it's only going to delete the rejected photos from that particular view. So if you don't want it to target your entire library, go to a smaller view and look at it from that perspective, and then you can clean them up in smaller chunks. I like to, especially if you're wanting to do a big batch like this from all photos, is to use the filters to first take a look at what photos are rejected and make sure they're ones that you want to get rid of before you go ahead and click delete. Because once that delete is done, they're out of Mylio. Where they go from there is to your system trash. So you still have one more chance to rescue them before they're permanently deleted. If you put things in the trash, and let's say you have your system set to delete everything in the trash can every 30 days, then you have that time frame to be able to clean up and pull them back into your library if you want to. But this is meant to be a permanent action that permanently deletes the photos, because these are rejects. These are going to be your super blurry photos, the ones where you accidentally took a picture of the ground, things like that, things that you just, they're just clutter in your library and you want to get rid of them.
Yep. And remember, a lot of times your operating system will let you right click on a file in the trash and say put back, and
Yes.
that will put it back into the folder that it came from, and Mylio will scan that folder and pick it back up. So getting something out of Mylio really requires you to be decisive that you want to get rid of it. And that's because we find that deleting photos should not be a super casual affair. So you're going to be asked if you want to do it. And if you do have hidden photos, it will actually warn you that they're hidden. There is a great preference here to show or hide rejected photos. So for example, if I'm in Mylio and I click on the More menu, you'll see a choice here to show or hide rejected photos. So if that's on and you start to clean things up, like let's say I was just going to go through some of these soccer photos here, you can start to look, and then as you reject a photo, if you just click the X key, for example, it's going to dim that image and mark it as a reject. Or you can click the reject flag, same thing, and it actually then hides that and puts it away. So let me just real quickly do one thing here from the console so we stop seeing the red boxes. So there we go. And that should get rid of them. Okay. And let's keep going. And so when something is rejected like that, it's going to be dimmed out, and you'll see it in the grid sort of as a scaled back, relatively hidden image that you can choose from that way. And that works well. Also, remember, under this menu, you've got some cool options to choose how are things being sorted. So by name, by date, by rating, etc. So that could be really cool if you want to sort of clean up how your pictures are being sorted here. I'm going to switch back to date created, and you'll see now that they're going to be a little bit more logically grouped there. But those different sort types are really easy to access there under the More menu. That's not new, just lots of people don't know it exists, so I wanted to point that out. And you can do this from different types of views. So for example, like if you want to check a picture here and you double click, and if you decide that you don't want that, again, you could just choose to reject. Now here, those keys aren't working because face tagging is popping up. I'm going to turn face tag off so it doesn't keep opening automatically. And now if I hit the X key, it's marked as a reject. And I can go to the next picture and start to scan and look. And so this is going to allow you to review those pictures and decide which ones you want to keep, which ones you want to reject. Relatively straightforward. So besides that, remember that we have a new mode called Quick Review. And this is really designed for mobile devices, but you can do it anywhere. Angela, how are you using this mode? And then do you want to show an example of it real quick?
Sure. So quick review is great for going through a recent photo shoot and quickly deciding which images you want to keep and which images you want to get rid of. So when I use flags, my pick flags are typically in that first pass through. Those are going to be the ones that I want to work on more. So when I'm looking at raw images, a pick flag is used to mark images that I want to edit. And those are going to be the ones that I come back to. A reject flag is going to be the ones that I want to get rid of. And then I'm going to have a bunch of images that, okay, I want to keep, but I don't want to add any kind of rating to. So that's how I go through and use quick review mode to quickly choose which images are worth working on and coming back to, and which ones just need to be gotten rid of.
Yep. And you can apply flags or star ratings in quick review mode. This is different than just a normal mode because what it does is it blocks out the user interface, and all you're seeing is the review. You get a film strip so you can go forward or back, and you get the ability to rate or flag, but everything else is effectively hidden while you're in this mode until you exit. So it's pretty cool that we can do that. So Angela, you want to show that?
Sure. Well, just a quick note on while your slide is still up, if you're doing this on a mobile device, there are some really cool touch sensitive gestures. So it's like Tinder for your photos. I've never used Tinder, but Rich told me, and I think he's not allowed to use it either because
No.
he's married, I'm married. Like that's not something we do. But
We asked the unmarried folks in the office.
yes. If you swipe to the right, that means you want to keep it. So that's a pick. You swipe to the left, that means when you want to reject or get rid of. So what I do is, you go through, you find those ones that you like, you can just swipe to the right. It's automatically going to add that pick flag. And then I can just touch and scroll through that film strip at the bottom to go through and see other images, because I don't want to flag every image. Some people do. That's not something I choose to do. So you can easily go back. So if you rate something incorrectly, or maybe your finger just has a little spasm and you swipe the wrong way, all you have to do is touch back on that photo in the film strip to go back and re-rate it. Yep. It's very easy to fix if you happen to make a mistake.
And if you're not in that mode, you can drag on the left and right side of the screen. The left side is going to be an option for adding stars, and the right side is going to be an option for adding flags. We're going to be shipping an update in a couple of weeks, maybe sooner, that tweaks the sensitivity of that so that it takes a more deliberate move. And also gives you the preference, if you hate it in normal view, to turn it off. But when you're in quick review mode, these always work. You can also use keyboard shortcuts on non-touch devices or the keys. So P is pick, X is reject, and 1 through 5 is going to be everything else. And what's cool in quick review mode is we'll automatically advance to the next image. So it's really fast to do this. So Angela, looks like you've got an example loaded.
I do. So I've got a trip here that I made out to a local lake to take some bird photos. I don't have any really long lenses for photographing birds, but luckily I have friends who are nice enough to share, and they shoot the same camera system that I do. So I sometimes get to try out some really nice long lenses and get some great bird photos. So as you go through and you take images of something that is constantly moving, you're probably going to hold down that shutter and take a lot of images, and a lot of them are just going to be duds. Especially with birds, you might just get like, you're taking a picture and oops, here it goes, and it's flying away. That's not a great image. So if you want to move through a set like this and use that quick review mode, I'm going to go up to the More menu and jump right here into quick review. And you'll notice the interface is pretty much the same on desktop as it is on mobile. The only difference is you don't have gestures unless you have a touch sensitive monitor, which unfortunately on Mac we don't have. So what I can do is use my keyboard shortcuts. We have those pick and reject shortcuts that are pretty much industry standard. So if you have other apps that use pick and reject flags, those keyboard shortcuts you're already used to are going to work. So a pick is going to be the P key and a reject is going to be the X. So I'm going to say this image, not all that interesting. I'm going to make that an X. Do that. And I can just move through these. Duck facing away from me, not great, not great. That's okay. I'm not going to do anything. So I can actually just hit my arrow key to go to the next image. Now this one's kind of cool. I'll keep that one around. I'll maybe hit that with a pick flag and a pick. And it's not looking at me. So I'm going to hit a reject, pick. And I'm just using my keyboard shortcuts, the P and the X keys on my keyboard to quickly move through these. Once you're done, or maybe you have a huge set that you're like, all right, I've done enough for now. You can either click this X to close the tool, or hit escape on your keyboard to go back to the regular Mylio view. Now, another way to clean up images from a shoot like this, where you have those burst mode images that are all very similar. Let's take a look at like this one. You can see I just had my finger there on the trigger of the camera, and I was shooting a bunch of images, hoping to get at least one sharp and maybe a good expression. So we have a new tool called Photo Declutter, and it's very similar if you've used the Photo Dedupe tool to find and remove exact duplicates. Declutter works for burst mode images. So let's go ahead and launch that and take a look. I know we had a request in the chat for this. So I'm going to go up to Organize and find similar photos. Now, by default, this tool opens looking at everything in your entire library. So I'm going to go ahead and X out of these instructions. I do encourage you to read those the first time you open it up. And I'm going to filter this down to that folder where I was looking at those images from being out at the lake photographing birds. So I'm going to click on the filter icon, choose folder, filtered folder, And I'm going to go back to, I know this was in 2020. And I'm going to find, let's see here. Where was it? Try to remember which date that was. I should have looked at it before I entered this mode. I think it was back a little further. Give me just a second. No, it wasn't 2020, it was actually 2021. My apologies. That'd be why I'm not finding it. So this one right here, that's where we were. So I'm going to go ahead and hit select, and that's going to pull up similar images from this particular shoot. Now, right now it's only showing 2, and that's because I have this slider here set to 0. So what it's doing is it's looking for images that were all shot in consecutive order within a particular period of time. I can take the slider and move this up to about 5 or 6 seconds, and this is going to widen out that parameter so I can see more similar shots. And once I have this pulled up so you can see that there's several, these actually could be grouped together entirely. I could actually move this up maybe even further, and that's going to regroup them and bring them all into a set so I can see those similar photos. Now, in order to go through and evaluate these, you can double click on any one of these images, and then you have the film strip here at the bottom showing each different version. You can use your arrow keys to click through these and see the differences and decide which ones are worth keeping and which ones you want to get rid of. So these are all pretty similar. I think the lighting on this one's not as good as this one. So I'm going to hit the space bar, and this marks that photo to delete. And I go to the next one, and I'm going to mark that with the space bar, and I'm going to keep that one. So I've marked 3 of these 5 images to delete, and I can X back or hit the back button and then go to the next set. Now you can do this from this view as well, but I like to take a really close look, especially with images like this that have a lot of detail. I want to be very careful to find ones that are sharp, that have good detail, that have good expressions. And again, I can just flip through these and see which ones are worth keeping. Now this one, it's not a bad photo, but his feet are cut off. So I'm going to mark that one to delete and take a look here at the placement of those different images. And you'll notice once I hit that right key, it went on to the next set. So you can move through these sets quite quickly to figure out which ones you want to keep and which ones you want to get rid of. So I'm going to mark those, and those can go away. And then I have one there that I've said, you know what, I want to keep that one. So I'm going to hit the right arrow key, move to the next set, and I can go through quickly and evaluate these images. I can even, if I need to, zoom in, take a closer look at that detail. If you're going to go into 100%, you're probably going to want to make sure you have the original RAWs available. So either on an external drive plugged into the computer you're using, or just right click on a series of images and you can say download originals. And that is going to give you the best quality image to look at when you're looking at this detail. So when you're taking photos of birds or anything that has really fine detail, being able to zoom in and look at that makes a huge difference. You can see this one is actually quite blurry compared to that one. So actually, I'm going to mark that one to get rid of. That one's pretty sharp. That's quite sharp. That one is not sharp. So that gets rid of another couple of images. And once you've gone through as many as you want to, you can come back to the screen and go down to delete checked, which is going to delete them from your Mylio library and put them into the system trash. Or if you aren't sure you want to actually delete them, you just want to move them outside of Mylio, this lets you put them in a folder somewhere else on your computer. For now, I'm going to go ahead and click delete checked. It's going to say you've selected 9 files to be deleted, and it's going to save me 237 megabytes of space. So I can go ahead and click delete files, and that's cleaned up so many of those images in my library. And you can do this little by little. It takes a lot of time to go through and really kind of granularly look at each one. But I think it's worth the effort, and the declutter tool makes that process a lot easier. Is there anything else that you would add to that, Rich?
No, I think it's quite useful. I think one of the things I would point out is this is often useful to do in smaller batches. So I know you showed filtering there, right, Angela?
Yes.
Yeah. And this
I like to narrow it down to a specific folder.
Yeah. So this is just going to kind of help you get in and clean things up. and it's non-destructive. So you can use this if you don't want to actually erase them. You can just choose move and move them out of your library. And this is the sort of cleanup you really need to do, because I'm proud to say that I've taken 30,000 pictures out of my photo library recently because they were not great. You know, I just went through and took some shoots that weren't time-lapse shoots where I purposely want all those repeated frames, and found different action shots that I wanted to clean up. And this just really lets you go through and get rid of some of the ones that aren't the best. And while you're here, you can use keyboard shortcuts, right, Angela?
Yes. So if you're in the declutter mode, let's go back and go into photo declutter. So find similar photos. And I'm going to go ahead and close that there. And let me just make.
And while she's getting this open,
Sure.
do you guys find this useful? We have one more type of cleanup to do, which is visually similar, but that requires a really slow analysis and a comparison of the files. So most of those types of tools, when you run them on 50,000 images, take about 4 hours to compare the photos. So we're still exploring how we could make that type of technology faster. But between true duplicates and time-based similars, that's getting most of what people have.
All right, so I have a handful of images here, and these are also from last night. And you can see that I have 5 frames that are very, very similar that were shot in sequence. So I can go through and see, okay, which ones are best in focus. You can see I'm zoomed in right now on the flower. And let's say I'm not ready to delete these. I'm not wanting to get rid of them entirely. I just want to mark my picks and my rejects. So I can, on this one, let's say I want to mark this one as a pick. And this one, it's not quite as sharp. I'm going to mark that as a reject. And so those pick and reject flags can be used here. And I'm using the P key on my keyboard and the X key to mark those. And if you want to mark it to delete, you can grab the next image and you hit that space bar, and that's going to put the checkbox to delete. If you do that accidentally and you don't want to do that, you can always easily uncheck that and move on. So this is another great way to use photo declutter to find your best photos and pick the ones that you want to work on later.
Great.
All right.
So do you guys have any questions about declutter or dedupe? If I can share the screen, Angela?
Oh yeah, go for it. You can stop sharing. There was a question in the chat about showing your rejects. So do you want to show quickly if you have something pulled up where you can just use the filter to find your rejects? So if you wanted to take a look at what's rejected before you delete.
Sure. You can always just go to any particular view and click on filters, and you'll see flag, and there's rejects. And that's going to show you rejected photos that you have. We'll be tweaking these colors here with the refresh. So reject is going to go red as opposed to pick being red and reject being green. So we're flipping those, but you have the ability there to sort and see those. And then that'll allow you to review stuff that you may want to clean up very quickly. And you can jump right in there and clean those up. And I wanted to point out something here. So I'm going to unreject these really quick, just for purposes. And let me go to info. So you see 379 media, right? So that's fine. And let me go in here for a second and just go to the main library. I'm going to clear that flag. And I want to show you my main image count right now. So all photos view, that's fine. And let's just take a look here. And you'll see just some general information. Let's go to folder level about the library. So the point here is that when you actually have stuff flagged as rejects, they are subtracted from the count. So you'll actually see that the total file count is going to go down when you do that. So when you view those things, you'll actually notice that you'll get an updated file count. But if you go in and you clean out the rejects and you bring them back, then they're going to be restored to the file count. So that's up to you. But when you hide something as a rejected and you have it actually turned off here under the more menu to hide the rejects, it's going to keep those hidden from view. Okay. Did I answer the question, Angela?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So easy enough. That was dedupe and declutter. Great for, when you have multiple shots of like taking a group photo. Like yesterday or Sunday, we tried to take a family picture, and between my son and my daughter, I think I still may have to go and paste two faces together because they couldn't keep a straight face on either one. The one was making a goofy face, then the other was making a goofy face. But this allows you to go through or to just see things where maybe, as you were lowering the camera, you took a picture of the ground and didn't need to. So you can go through and quickly clean those things up. We did also add some more stuff for organization, or backup. So now you get the ability to back up from Instagram as well as Facebook and Flickr and Google. So that's going to make it really easy for you to go in and grab those. So for example, if you go to folders, you'll see in the Mylio library folder, once you import, that you can import from Instagram. So it's just like the other ones. You click the plus button and choose an online service, and then you can connect. Google requires you to request a takeout document. So that takes a little bit for Google to calculate that. They'll email you when it's ready. But once you're connected, just like Facebook, it'll pull everything down and you can actually see all of that stuff, and it grabbed everything there. And so I was able to pull in all of those pictures. And so it's not that I didn't have these pictures, but I like the fact that, like here, for example, I have a series of photos organized from my visit to the La Brea tar pits. And so I like that I can grab all of those, or this trip to a VR trip we did. And I could see all of these things that I previously shared and grab them. Maybe I want to reshare. It also can pull down video files from that as well. So you can absolutely get videos that you've loaded, and those will actually come down as well. So it's pretty cool with that integration with Instagram. So you can grab those very easily. Let's see, what else? Safe Share. So this is a feature we're going to keep improving upon, but Safe Share is designed to keep your pictures private when you share them. We're going to expand this feature and start to look for more things in your library that you might not realize are there. But for right now, when you go to share an image, you'll see that on all of our options here, that there is going to be a choice. And so, for example, you'll see Safe Share. And when that's turned on, that automatically strips all metadata from the image when you share. This way, your people tags, your contact information, maybe your copyright, all of that stuff doesn't go with the image. The GPS tags aren't being sent. So this is a default that I like to leave on when I'm posting to social media or sharing to general services online, like email and things like that, because all of that information can be scanned. So you have to realize that the different parties out there can basically index you and find what's going on. So for example, if you go to Amazon Photos, let me just show you some of the things that they track. So Mylio, if you're going to use the cloud, lets you choose to, okay, fine, let me approve the notification here. Let's see here, tap the sign in link. That's great, approve. All right, I approved it. Perfect. Okay, so up here, I have an unencrypted library. And this is Amazon Photos. Amazon Photos is no longer connected to Mylio. They're not allowing people to upload to Amazon anymore after the end of January. We're going to be rolling out some new cloud options that you can tie into, as well as we still support Google and Microsoft's cloud. But I want to show you here that they have a bunch of things, right? Things, that's what they call their tags. And so there's all sorts of things in here. And they show you the normal ones like, oh, the ocean, road, mountain, water. That's cool. But did you know, for example, that if you take a look at all the tags, you'll start to discover that they've done things like tag the word sandals. And now they see all these shots. They thought that was a sandal. It's not, but all these other things are sandals. There's some, those aren't sandals, but you see it's finding all these things that it thinks are sandals. And as such, it knows when I go shopping that maybe it should recommend certain brands to me because those are the ones I tend to buy for my kids, right? Same thing. It knows what types of hats I like when I am camping. So you could actually do 2 tags. And so it's going to be able to be very specific and recommend these types of hats because I do a lot of camping with scout troops. And it's going to say, oh, we think you like these type of brimmed hats. Would you like more? That's just some of the stuff that these companies do. There's way more going on than that with online companies tracking your data. So I would suggest when you share publicly, strip the metadata off before you send it to Facebook and other places. It's fine to share there, but don't give them extra information about you so that they can track you and then advertise to you or sell information about you. So it's good to turn on Safe Share. In the future, we're going to go even further and start to scan your photos ahead of time for sensitive information. So we're working on that right now, but I invite you all, if you've got your smartphone connected to your Mylio, I'm not going to open these up here, but take something like a credit card that you own, for example, and just type its name in, and you'll probably discover at some point you took a picture of your credit card to send to somebody because they asked you to forward them a credit card or your driver's license or your social security card or your insurance card. And all of that stuff is in there. And that's because not just Mylio has optical character recognition. And so it's able to find things like screenshots where you maybe entered in a passcode. It can read photos and actually see and read right there on the screen that small of text in a photo of a screen, right? You'd just be surprised. And it doesn't matter if the picture's dark because not just Mylio can auto enhance and brighten and read the text. So it's going to go in there and find that sort of stuff. So I would just advise that you start to think about what you post and share online a little bit more as we go forward. And Mylio is going to continue to pay attention to this. We're starting to build in tools here that can analyze your image library and flag images that could lead to personal identity theft. So we're going to give you a tool to scan your library in the future to look for this stuff. You can use the search tool right now, but we're building a tool that can be run automatically to scan for sensitive information. So I don't mean to scare anybody. That's the public service announcement of today's post. And just run a search on your own library and you might be surprised what you already have in the cloud. Okay. Angela, any questions before we go forward and talk about a couple more things? I'm going to jump backwards because we skipped a section.
Nothing new in the chat. So if anybody has questions, go ahead and post those in the chat or feel free to unmute and ask.
Okay. So one of my favorite things we added was something called Photo Explorer. So Angela, what can you use this for?
Well, you can use it to figure out where you took an image. So in addition to finding things on the Mylio Photos map, you can actually open up your favorite web map provider. We support, I think, 4 of them: Apple Photos, Google Earth, Open Maps, Maps. Anyway, there's several. You get to choose the first time you open Photo Explorer, you choose which one. And then if you don't like the one you chose, you can always go into preferences and switch to a different map provider. And it pulls that up on a live map where you can see what's around it. You can figure out, hey, it was at that restaurant where I took that picture of that beautiful Thai iced tea that, I want to go back there and have that again, or a hotel you stayed at, and can even get you to that hotel's website where you can make a reservation. It's super convenient and helpful.
Yeah. And so if you've geotagged a picture, you'll now see on the thumbnail a little map icon, a little compass, and that gives you 2 options. You can choose to show it on the Mylio map, and that will show you other pictures nearby, or you can explore the location on the web. Now, I love this for when I'm on the go with mobile. So let me just go ahead and I'm going to bring mobile up here. Let me switch to sharing my phone real quick, but you can do this on your desktop too. I just particularly like it on the web when I'm like on the go with my device. So let's say you were out and about and, the other day, my son and I at his college, we stepped out and we went to play mini golf. Well, I don't remember the name of the place. We kind of stumbled across it. We were just looking for something to do, spending the day together. Well, maybe a friend wants to go there. I could tap that button and say, explore location on the web. And in this case, it chose to open Google Earth because that was the preference I set. Now I don't want to use Google Earth this time, so I'm going to change that. I could just go under settings and tap that here. And this is going to be under, I always forget. By the way, we have completely reorganized preferences coming soon. It's under general. And I'm going to say Apple Maps in this case, because I'm on my Apple device, but you can use any device or map service. So now it's going to trigger that, and it found it, right? And it can actually, you can zoom in and start to see where were you, get a pretty good idea, and actually start to look at things near that business, get driving directions back to that place, which is cool. You also can go in, and if you use Google Maps, which is pretty robust, you can get even more information usually. Let's go to Google Maps. There we go. And I'm going to go to a different picture. So let's say, there we go. Yep, that works. So I'm going to go on the map here for a second. And I remember going on vacation this summer. Angela brought up a memory of a wonderful Thai iced tea. Thank you, Angela. So, I'm going to go in here and say, let's go to Martha's Vineyard. And let's see if I could type on the fly here really quick and spell it correctly. Maybe. There we go. Martha's Vineyard. Return. Perfect. So I see the island here. And these are pictures I took on my cell phone, and it's automatically tagged them. Well, I think we went up here for lunch, right? Oh, yeah, there it is. I went to this great Thai restaurant, who for some reason also had fortune cookies, and I could tap. And I see that I've got, some fun memories from this trip. Well, my friend tells me that they're going to the island next summer. I said, you got to check this restaurant out. It was great. Besides just sending them the picture, I could tap and say, explore the location on the web. And it's going to open it up and take you pretty close. And so now you can look at that location and, start to zoom in and see if you can find where you were. And so with just a little bit of looking, usually within a reasonable amount, you can actually start to get in there and find where you might have been, and then connect and take it. Or you can start to look up things like the sunset time, or get driving directions back there if you want to go take a picture again. So it's pretty cool. Or even just tap the button here, and you can go right in and start to explore. So it's pretty cool how you can use this information to really see where you're at and get directions, drive to a place, check sunrise, sunset time, or share that information with folks. I even like the option to do a street view look around, because sometimes that can help you kind of reorient. Like one memory triggers another memory. And it's like, oh, is that the restaurant? Well, I like that they've grayed out the sign. Thank you, Google. Maybe because they didn't advertise, but you can kind of move around here with Google and take a look at things and check an address, or actually kind of just explore. And it's like, oh yeah, Copper Walk, that was the restaurant. Yeah, I remember going there. And then I could share that information with somebody else. And so it's really cool how one memory can lead to another memory. So right now we're doing this with GPS data, but we're thinking about expanding this feature so that, like, if you attach contact information to your people tags, you could do things like call a person or send them a picture right from Mylio. So we're going to keep working on making Photo Explorer more robust. And it's just kind of cool when you have those GPS data. So when you find a picture that you want to share with somebody, no problem. You can go ahead and just explore that location, and then get right there and start to get driving directions. Oh yeah, I want to go back there and take that ferry ride again. Cool. And oh, there's the information. Let me find out about that. There's the schedule. See how simple that was? It's like the power of the internet. So I don't know about you, but I forget things all the time. And now I don't have to worry about it. I can literally look stuff up by picture. Go ahead, JC.
Hey, Rich, this came in super handy after my last diving trip. So I was in the Maldives, and typically what I do before I go on a dive and I take a bunch of pictures underwater where there is no GPS data, is I take a photo with my phone on the boat right before I jump in the water. But sometimes you either forget or, where the boat dropped you off and where you ended up drifting to is two completely separate locations. You'd be surprised how quickly you move underwater.
Yeah.
But I had the name of the dive sites, and by using this feature, I found that a lot of other divers have in the past correctly geotag and mark in Google Maps or other of the services that you can use with the Web Explorer, those specific dive sites. So I click on a photo, and to my surprise, when I went to Google Maps, somebody had named the dive site and the specific location. And there's even people that have identified where they saw manta rays in that region. So I was like, oh, this is really cool. That's the same place that I saw a manta ray. I wonder if it's the same one.
Yeah,
So
because you could use that to then find similar photos from nearby from the community, right? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So very cool.
I was very happy how this one turned out. We're going to keep expanding it, but I hope you guys find it fun. It works on your desktop too, but it's really useful on mobile. And then I wanted to point out those gestures that Angela mentioned on mobile. So for example, if you've got a bunch of pictures to cull, like here, I've got this to organize folder. If there's subfolders within, remember, we have this cool option. So instead of seeing it as a container with all these subfolders and everything intact, right? What you can do is at the top level, you could tap show media. And now it shows you everything inside the folder. Then you could choose to go into quick review mode and see everything. Now, I've got a bunch of videos here, so I'm not going to worry about those, but that would allow you to navigate and kind of explore. So let me choose something here with more just pictures. And same thing, I'll tap quick review. And it's very simple. Reject, keep, 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 reject, right? And so, and then you could just tap the screen if you want to go forward. Keep, keep, reject. And it auto advances to the next one. And it's just super simple to go through and mark the pictures that you want. And so swiping left or right is going to make that change. Or in this view, if you prefer to star rate, you can. Let me just navigate a little bit forward. You can just drag up or down, and you'll see that the ratings change. Or if you prefer to just press on the screen, you can say reject and just tap the button and tap the ones that you want. And again, it will automatically go to the next picture, letting you mark those. And you can see that the rejects are grayed out, but you can always navigate right through there. So this is very touch friendly. It's designed so you can operate with one hand, just very simply, like while in the grocery store checkout lane or drinking a cup of coffee in one hand or other beverage of your choice and marking photos with the other. So you don't have to always sit in front of the computer all day long. You can actually walk around and do this. Or like me, I do time-lapse photography and also landscape photography. Sometimes you find yourself arriving early to just get there before sunrise or sunset, and you're standing around waiting. Go ahead and cull some photos and mark the bad ones, clean them up, and you can get your library done. Instead of just sitting there playing a game on your phone, you can play the rating game and go through and clean up your photos. So
long play rides on the way back from a trip.
Yep.
Yes.
And you don't have to have the high-res photos on for quick review mode. You can work with the thumbnails if you want. Obviously, you can't check critical focus like Angela was suggesting as well on those, but you could still clean up quite a few pictures pretty quickly that way.
Definitely. All right. Well, JC looks like he's gotten to all of the questions that popped up in the chat. If anybody has other questions, please feel free to unmute. I think we're about ready to wrap up for today. If you guys have enjoyed this session and the last one, lots of information shared.
Yeah. And right. JC, you answered the one about moving things. Oh yeah, you're great. Yep. Awesome.
JC's on top of it.
Good, good. Well, the other thing I would just say then as we sort of wrap things up is there's a lot to this version of Mylio. We worked really hard to expand it. I would make sure that if you haven't noticed yet, we added a preference so that it launches a background agent on your desktop computers and laptops. This is going to allow syncing to happen in the background, even when Mylio isn't running. So it's a lot like how, say, Dropbox works, and it's always syncing in the background. This is great because it'll keep your machines up to date, and it will mean that when you launch Mylio on your desktop or laptop, it's there. We're working on that for mobile devices. Mobile devices have a lot of restrictions about things that run in the background and consume a lot of data. So we're working through exactly what we can and can't do and applying for special permissions from the different phone manufacturers to do that. So that is something we're working on, but this will dramatically improve things. If you want to manually set this because you had it turned off before, what you want to do is turn on the option that says launch Mylio Photos at login and turn off the option that says quit app on close. So what it will do instead when you close is just completely hide the user interface. So it's not in your face, but it's still running in the background seamlessly, and it will start to synchronize things. So I strongly suggest you turn that on. It's going to really improve your experience with what you're doing. And we already talked about auto tone and color and flagging. If you skipped the editing session, go ahead and check that one out. The big highlights there were we added levels that also have per channel color correction ability. We added a vignette tool that makes it very easy to gently guide focus, complete control over 16-bit image workflow and color space. We also gave you the ability to specify when handing off to an external editor if you wanted to keep the Mylio edits and have it generate a new file. And that works out nicely. So that's going to allow you to choose what you keep. And then, so when you select, you can actually go in and choose to open in an external tool and then specify what you hand off. Remember, if you're online, it will connect and try to find one of your other devices and get the full quality files if it needs it. And so that makes it really easy to do that handoff. And then on the mobile side, remember, take advantage. I suggest on your mobile devices, set your device to keep all your previews. I want to show you how to do that really quick because this isn't totally clear. One of the things we're working on right now is an improved device setup interface that's going to give you much more granular control. So I know that this is a little tricky now. Angela, you cover it really well in the manual, but let me show you guys something. So for example, this is my iPad. It's currently off, but on my desktop computer here, I could still adjust its settings. So I'm going to tell my iPad, which has plenty of space, under device quality, normally you see like thumbnails, auto-optimized in Vault. Auto-optimized means, oh, put what I'm recently working with on there and the stuff that I'm interacting with. Well, in my case, I don't want to put everything onto my iPad because my photo library is 10 terabytes. My iPad is not 10 terabytes. You can't get a 10 terabyte iPad. I wouldn't even want to know what Apple would charge for that if I could. But what I can do here under auto-optimized is choose show customizations. And I just said, oh, sync all my smart previews. And then if you want certain originals, you can go in and say, and all my 4-star originals, or just the 5 stars, or the ones I put blue labels on. Soon, we're going to have a major upgrade to this that will give you granular control, like the ability to add specific folders on top of these settings, like only smart previews plus these 5 folders that I'm working on. So you're going to have that later next spring, the ability to really get precise control in there. But that's all it is. And so now when I apply the changes, my iPad, whether I'm online or offline, always has those previews, which is a 5:7 print at 300 pixels per inch, full raw data for editing, and the resolution you need to make a basic print or share to social media, drop into a presentation, or email. Speaking of which, one of the other things that's just absolutely awesome that I want to make sure we don't forget is Mylio has copy and paste. Now, you might remember that from before, that you had copy and paste. We've now improved it 2 ways. Before, it only pasted links, which meant like most files could grab it, but you couldn't paste into certain applications. Now we can also paste pixels. And if you want exact control, we've added this to the share menu you'll see it and it says System Clipboard. So that's going to give you the ability to then grab that and actually specify what happens to it. Now, apparently I grabbed some things that were offline, but it's pulling them down. But that's going to give you that ability. Let me just choose something I know I've got handy real quick. We'll do just this one picture. So now when you choose to share that, what it's going to do is give you the ability to specify the file type that you paste. So if you want to paste this into Slack and you want them to be JPEGs and you want to change the size, you can do that. And even set the other quality settings or turn on something like the watermark. And so that way, when you copy and paste, you've got full control of what you're copying and pasting, which is pretty cool. So you can do regular copy paste. And again, that's just edit, Command C, Control V, those shortcuts, Command or Control C or V, and it works great. So hopefully you could take advantage of those improvements to make it a little bit easier to share. And we added more support for Fuji cameras and I think an Olympus camera or two. So you can check that out when you get the time. So thank you guys for coming today.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. This has been very, very informative. And for those of you who stuck with us for 2 hours, I want to thank you for your dedication to learning more about Mylio Photos. This is your last call for questions. If you have questions, pop them into the chat or feel free to unmute your mic and ask your questions. And if you don't have any more questions, then we're going to go ahead and wrap up for the day. Gloria, I'm glad you